Hey guys, welcome to my channel Late Night Strange. I'm gonna kick out the first episode by talking about the little people. If you enjoyed this kind of content, please like and subscribe. Let's begin. Cultures from around the world tell about small humanoid with supernatural abilities. In America, we know them to be as gnomes, fairies, elves, pygmies, leprechauns, and hobbits. In Native Americans, they call them little people, nature spirits, jogas, bakwajis, menegeshis, nirumbi, and many names throughout all different tribes with similar details. With all the different names out there from around the world describing similar details on the same creature, I believe there are many types of these creatures, but all fall under one species. How are these cryptids running around undetected? Are they what we call interdimensional beings? Do they really have supernatural powers? Or are they just the best hide and seekers out there? The natives says they only appear to children, elders, and the sick, but rarely seen by adults. Let's get right into it and talk about some of these species. There are cultures all around the world with the same kind of story about little people. For example, Ireland, they have the leprechaun. A leprechaun is usually described as a bearded man who wears a green suit and hat, and is believed to hold a pot of gold if you can catch him. It is said that every leprechaun has a pot of gold that he hides deep in the Irish countryside. According to legends, the leprechaun must give this treasure away to whoever captures him. The story goes that the sneaky leprechaun can fool any person into looking away just for an instant. And just like that, he vanishes into the forest and takes his treasure with him. In a small Irish town called Carlingford, leprechauns are officially protected species. After a local claimed to see a leprechaun in the area, a law was passed in 2009 to keep the little creature safe. According to locals, the last living leprechaun, all 236 of them, live in this region. Next, we have the Duende. Duendes are seen all over the world, including the Philippines, Mexico, all over Central America and South America. Duendes are little creatures similar to a goblin, elf, or dwarf. They provide good fortunes or bad fates depending on how you treat them. According to the elders, Duendes are also capable of doing extreme acts of goodness. In rural areas, there are stories that state that if you manage to befriend a duende, you can expect to have a successful life. But with good comes with evil. Duendes are also known for kidnapping children and women and are extreme tricksters. Next on the list, we have Korokopururu. Residing in the northlands of Hokkaido in Japan, there's a group of indigenous people called the Ainu that have long traditions of an ancient race of dwarf-like people thought to have inhabited the land since long before humans arrived. The name Korokopururu is most commonly translated as the people who live under the burdock leaves. It implies the diminutive size of the creature. In addition to their small stature, the Korokopururu were said to be rather rough and primitive looking, with large heads, primitive brows, and short, squashed nose. They were sometimes said to have reddish-skinned faces, and most commonly, the Korokopururu were described as being rather hairy and odoriferous. According to Ainu lore, this dwarf race was extremely shy and did not like to be seen. They were known to trade with the Ainus on occasion, although such transactions were brief and were done at night. The Korokopururu and the Ainu were said to have peacefully shared the land until war broke out between them, and the Korokopururu were either wiped out or driven away. After their disappearance and with the presence of mankind in Hokkaido, this mysterious race of ancient little people have seemed to just vanish off the earth and forever in the mist of time. Incredibly, there has been some scattered evidence proposing over the years for such a non-Ainu race once lived in Hokkaido. Archaeologists have found evidence of strange pit dwellings all over Japan that are consistent with the stories of the Korokopuru's dwellings, but not consistent with the Ainu, who have always lived in thatched houses. These pits have often been found to contain stone implements not typical of the Ainu, as well as mysterious tools that seems too small to be comfortable or efficient for a normal human-sized hand. Was there any truth to any of these stories of a small humanoid creature living in the wilds of Hokkaido? And if so, where have they gone? Next on the list is the lost tribe of the little people from Indonesia. In 2003, archaeologists were astonished to discover the remains of a miniature human species that lived on the island of Flores 18,000 years ago. The full-grown female remains was barely a meter tall, with the skull size of a grapefruit. Around the caves where the remains were found also indicates that these small human species hunted, used fire, and made sophisticated tools. Excavator also discovered the remains of a cranium, right and left leg, hand, and other bone fragments in the cave called Lang Bao on the Indonesian island of Flores, about 400 miles east of Bali. In 2017, a video surfaced on YouTube of a living member of the Mante tribe, an ancient extinct tribe of people once thought to inhabit the northern Sumatra. Even though there aren't concrete evidence of these tribes living in Indonesia, people of Aceh, Indonesia believes a primitive people did once indeed live in these caves and mountains near the virgin jungles of Sumatra's north. Now here's that video of that small pygmy human tribesman, also known as the Mante tribesman, holding a spear running away from a group of trail bike riders. Let me know what you think in the comments. Is it real or is it fake? To me it looks pretty real, with the pygmy tribesman standing only around 3 feet tall. Watch closely and pay attention to how tall that pygmy was compared to the human bike riders. As you can see here, the entrance to the grass is about waist to shoulders length of the biker. But over here, for the pygmy, it was well over his head. So real or fake, this footage is pretty amazing to say the least. Soon after the video has surfaced in 2017, the regional government of this area has set up a team to go look for these tribesmen. Even if the government find these small little pygmy tribesmen, they will probably never ever tell us about their existence. Next on the list, we have the Honderfolk, elves of Iceland, or hidden people of Iceland. In the US, elves are seen as fictional characters in fairy tales and pop culture. We humor the idea of their existence during Christmas, but in Iceland, however, beliefs in elves is very real and very significant part of their culture. Like elves, Honderfolks also live outdoors, making their homes in Iceland rocks and cliffs. And throughout Iceland, you can find these small little red houses built by Icelanders just for the elves. According to a study done in 2006, 32% of Icelanders believe the existence of these beings to be possible, while 24% believes their existence is either likely or outright certainly. Tales of elves and Honderfolks extracting revenge on those who disturb their home are also well documented. The most famous story involves Elf Hill Road, a road that was at one point intended to run through Elfhof, a hill where elves are believed to live. Construction was begun on this road on 2 separate occasions, but each time a collection of misfortune and theft prevented it from being completed.
We believe so much in elves at the road administration. We look at it as part of our cultural inheritance.
Sometimes even new constructions will be halted by concerned Icelanders who wish to protect the habitats of elves and Honderfolks. For instance, in 1982, over 100 Icelanders protested at a NATO base and demanded to inspect the area of any elf dwellings. Also in 2004, a company that specialized in aluminum had to halt constructions and hire government officials to inspect an area for elven ruins. While much of the world likes to poke fun at the idea of wacky Icelanders getting worked up over fairy tales, beliefs in elves and Honderfolks may be about more than just simple superstitions. It is possible that the belief in supernatural in Iceland may be related to modern day environmentalism. Last on the list is Punzone, known in the Hmong culture to be a little girl no more than a few feet tall, long scruffled black hair with feet pointing in opposite directions, eyes twisted towards the side, and fingers overlapping one another. The small cryptid has known to exist in both earthly and spiritual realms. Many have reported seeing her in the jungles of Laos when hunting alone, or at night coming back home from the gardens up in the mountains. She's a clever trickster who can appear in and disappear with the blink of an eye, and is also known to befriend tigers. You know, growing up, my parents would always tell me these stories. You know, me and my siblings, these bedtime stories of these creatures. You know, we always thought that growing up, these stories were just nothing more than like lessons for us to do good in life. Because every single story, majority of them, you know, has a teaching behind it. But to my surprise, you know, these creatures are still seen today. It's crazy. So, you know, almost all the older generations have seen or know somebody who has seen these creatures back in Laos. And I just want to tell you guys one of these stories, you know, that my mom told me of her seeing this Punzone. So, yeah, here we go. My mom, you know, she told me a story back then that when she was a teenager coming back home from the garden up in the mountains, she seen this little girl up ahead on a dirt road, just walking in the same direction as she is, away from her. And this little girl, you know, she had like no idea my mom was behind her at all. You know, and then my mom thought it was just like another family going home like she was. She didn't notice that there was like no adults with, you know, her at all. And the sun was setting. So my mom, you know, being curious as to why this little girl would be all the way out here alone in the woods. Because the walk from the garden, you know, home was about 2 to 3 hours. I mean, these gardens were like up in the mountains, you know, because the soil up in the mountains is a lot better than like the flat grounds, because the flat grounds kind of more droughty. So yeah, so anyways, as my mom got closer and closer and closer, you know, my mom was like walking quickly and faster, try to catch up to this little girl. And as my mom got closer, she noticed that this little girl was only about 3 feet tall, you know, walking kind of weird. But you know, she's just thinking, hey, it might be some kid lost in the woods. I gotta go comfort her, you know, or else take her back home or guide her or just be in company. Because in the village, you know, everybody knows each other, and then when people meet each other out in the woods, it's just somebody they know or somebody's kid, you know, out there. So anyways, this little girl then like took notice of my mom approaching behind her, and then the little girl got spooked, and then she like jumped in a patch of tall grass left side of the dirt road and pretty much just ducked. My mom could clearly see where this little girl jumped behind this tall bush and just ducked. So to my mom's curiosity as to why this little girl was like hiding from my mom then went up to this tall patch of grass and pretty much just kind of brushed it aside, hoping to see a little girl behind there. But to my mom's surprise, there was like nothing at all. As if this little girl jumped behind the patch of grass and simply vanished. So which then sets in and pretty much sent chills throughout my mom's body, you know, sending her running home. No, it didn't. She had to pretty much like, you know, gain her composure by not showing fear, because if you show fear, then these things are known to like follow you home. So she didn't, you know, she quietly and quickly just pretty much gathered her garden stuff and walked home quietly as if nothing happened at all. I mean, just think about, you know, what you just experienced and the fear that you got, knowing that you see this little girl just jump behind this bush, move, you know, you kind of brush, you know, the bush aside, and there's nothing there at all. I mean, ooh, you know, the chills and the fear that sends you through your whole body, and, you know, just the sun setting in the background. Holy crap, that will send me running home as fast as I can. But, you know, back in the days, they pretty much got to toughen up and not be scared of anything and walk home just like nothing happened at all, man. It's crazy. So yeah, this was my mom's story. So yeah, if you guys like that, or you guys enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe. You guys want to hear more stories than just, you know, types of cryptids all bunched into one like this, just let me know down in the comments, and maybe I'll tell more of these Punzone stories, because there's a lot of them. And this is like pretty much the cryptid, or the species of cryptid, that got me extremely interested in this topic of just covering all these cryptids in Laos, comparing to, you know, modern day cryptids. So, and I've never heard any, you know, cryptozoologists talk about this Punzone character or cryptid. So just want to cover that. There's so much more into it. You know, one day maybe I'll go in depth, or maybe in the next episode. But yeah, guys, thank you guys for watching, and yeah, I will see you guys on the next episode. Bye bye.